All right, a Bernie bro tried to defend what happened. Let's talk about all the things she's undeniably right about. I should note that I'm not a Bernie bro who not only voted against Hillary Clinton in the general election, but also warned my audience and friends against making a bad decision. Obviously, it didn't work, but I was excited to read Hillary's version of So I Wrote a Thing. So this isn't going to be a Hillary shouldn't have written this book rant. That's a stupid talking point, not just because it can be easily dismissed as sexist, but also because of course, the shoo-in candidate who took the biggest, most surprising L in recent political history is going to write a book about it. Are you kidding me? I was extremely curious to find out if any of Hillary Rodham Clinton's takes and what happened would surprise me. Sadly, they were dull and repetitive, a rehashing of everything we had already heard from her loyalists in the aftermath of the devastating loss. Doubly ironic given Hillary Rodham Clinton's claims of this book not being a rehashing of the past, but a prescription for the future. Apparently, for Hillary, the future is built upon more blame sharing and a steadfast clinging on to what's marginally possible. But let's get into it. Let's talk about all the things that she's undeniably right about before I get into where she's terribly wrong and potentially leading the Democrats to fall into the same misguided thinking that plagued her in the Democratic primary. Denying that Hillary was an incredibly qualified candidate even way before she's compared to a dangerously unqualified racist alleged rapist is absurd. Hillary unquestionably brought an impressive resume to the campaign. However, being a prestigious candidate does not erase the business as usual politics and the growing resentment towards this concept from voters. Trump's anti-corruption demagoguery was his most successful talking point. He turned his weakness, a lack of experience, into his ultimate strength. Damn, I was fucking spitting, dude. God, I'm so good. Hasan is a lib? What do you mean? That's not libbed up at all. Hillary had the bona fides as a Secretary of State. You're ridiculous. Like, she was literally basically was setting herself up for this position for many, many years. Don't be silly. She did have the job experience. What I'm trying to explain to you is that having the job experience in this circumstance was a negative because the other person could present themselves as an outsider. Also, drain the swamp is still a far superior campaign slogan to love Trump's hate because one speaks to the legitimate problem voters perceive within DC, while the other is cripplingly obsessive with fighting against the perceived evil monster Trump, even though that's literally what he is. In this way, Trump turned Hillary's extensive governing experience from an asset into an albatross he could hang around her neck. Trump helped drive a discourse in which Hillary's long track record of accomplishments, which necessarily involved a whole lot of compromise or flip-flopping to the layperson, hurt her. A Chris Cillizza-like amoral pundit class that has dedicated their entire lives to understanding the complexities of the political arena will excuse this. I really got to write again, dude. I used to be I think I was a pretty great writer. An electorate frustrated with the way they perceive to be DC corruption will not. We all know what happened. Hillary's lengthy CV certainly did not sway the minds of voters angry at real economic problems, but mistakenly assigned blame to racially charged prescriptions. These were people desperate for change. Many of the privileged bunch who made the ill-advised choice of voting for Trump in spite of the overwhelming evidence that he would be as awful as the person he is proven to be, as well as those who voted for him because of that awfulness. I drink liberal tears would make a fine slogan for the opposition party of very vocal yet still somehow silent underdogs, and it fucking worked, paired with many empty promises about fixing infrastructure, bringing back jobs, and a bunch of other racist shit. Same with your breakdown videos, brother. I've been saying this exact same thing. Yeah, I mean, this was the script for my breakdown videos. I would write these and then I would reformat it for Huffington Post. So despite her war hawkish and ideologically inconsistent track record, Hillary is absolutely one of the most important female icons of our generation. Hillary definitely rocks in the way that she could be just as evil as the rest of the calculating, corporate-facing DC assholes with dicks. And I do admire and respect her for this. I'm not even remotely kidding. However, this brings me to my next point. Ew. Okay, I take it back. Denying that sexism played a part in Hillary's loss is also dumb. Even when analyzed with the least qualitative lens, one can easily see the extra focus both the media and voters placed on Hillary's flaws, as we overlooked or downplayed the flagrantly abusive and oftentimes idiotic rhetoric Trump, a poster boy for white privilege and male privilege, filled the airways with. However inexcusable, sexism is a reality. And if sexism contributed to driving Sanders supporters towards Trump, then back in 2008, racism contributed to driving angry Hillary supporters to vote for John McCain instead of Barack Obama at much higher margins than Bernie Bros voted for Trump, mind you. Do you see where I'm going with this? Yes, Russia and James Comey also contributed to the loss significantly. I won't get too far into the Russia and Comey subject. These factors are mostly true, and we're finding out more about Russia's involvement in election meddling every day. Yes, there was an unequal amount of leaked information against Hillary Clinton that the left and Democratic side exposed. Paired with years of pre-existing Clinton conspiracies, this new information fueled the fire already burning against Clinton. But we mustn't simply gloss over the reality that the majority of the exposed shit were actual things Hillary Clinton said and did. In this instance, getting mad at the leaks is no different than getting upset at Edward Snowden rather than the NSA for unconstitutionally surveilling Americans, or getting mad at Ava DuVernay for including Hillary's super predators quote in her documentary The 13th, instead of questioning Hillary for advancing the racially charged concept to begin with. There you go. It's a deflection of responsibility away from the person solely responsible, which has been an overwhelming theme with Hillary and her supporters. But I must repeat that it is absolutely insane to think anything Hillary said or did was worse than the impeccable consistency in which Donald Trump exposed the non-white, non-male Americans as asshole on national national television every single fucking week. Hillary lost for a number of reasons, some of which she admits in her book, some were outright omitted, and others deflected away. It's impossible to please everyone. If anyone knows this, it's prolific means tester Hillary Rodham Clinton. But there are 3 excerpts from Hillary's Pod Save America interview that perfectly summarizes her deflections and provide the foundation for my gripe with her campaign, the repeated failings of the establishment Democrats and their donors in this tell-all but not really all book overall. The Bernie's not a Democrat defense. Yes, it's a segue, bitch. Oh my God, that's so fucking lame. Listen, I've grown up a little bit since 2016. That was literally 25 years ago. 2016 was 25 years ago. Think about that. Bernie's not a Democrat defense. This is bullshit. The dude unseated a Democrat as an independent back in the same year Reagan was almost assassinated. Everyone should collectively get the fuck over this as we work through this obviously new concept that we are condemned to live within a 2-party system. Bernie's not a Democrat, question mark? Is he not a Democrat even though he caucuses with Dems when he mostly toes the party line unless it's a compromise on his ideological integrity? Is it because he voted against the Iraq War? Or is Bernie not a Democrat because how dare he try to provide a more progressive alternative to what our Democratic establishment believed was the most electable in our country? By the way, that Democratic establishment failed in a really public way, in a bigly way. So all this sweeping under the rug is not genuine. It's carefully crafted to maintain their positions of power. It's like when Equifax fucks up big time by not putting in proper security measures for your Social Security, but instead of admitting how they fucked up and facing the consequences, they try to screw consumers over further and deflect. But this time it's our healthcare and the lives of millions of undocumented citizens on the line. The Bernie's no Democrat rhetoric also creates this weird tribal identity around the Democratic Party, which holds that maintaining the sanctity of said party and its greatest standard bearer, Hillary Clinton, on a higher plane as more important than the party's policies, if advanced by who Hillary and the DNC deemed to be an outsider. What a great big fuck you to the millions of Americans who vote Democrat and have the gall to care about universal health care and free public universities. Bernie's as Democratic as they come, he's just not your Democrat. The I couldn't expand upon Obama's programs because I am a Democrat defense. Double dog bullshit. One, because she's been throwing Obama under the bus fairly regularly on her promotional circuit because he told her not to attack Bernie, which she did anyway, and also because she was mad at Obama for making progress on green energy initiatives that increase resentment against the Democrats among workers dependent on fossil fuel industries. So Obama should have subsidized more of the coal industry, and then maybe you could have campaigned more in important swing states like Pennsylvania, I guess. Also, Obama literally has mentioned probably 1 billion times that the ACA is supposed to be a stepping stone towards universal health care, a concept Hillary has described as impossible to enact. The same concept that Mr. Non-Democrat Bernie Sanders has successfully been able to get in front of the Democratic Party, which is now hopping on the Bern train. All aboard, baby. Sexist ass health care for everybody. However, denying that Bernie had something to do with Hillary's results is meaningless. It was a strong primary. Hillary faced the challenge she overcame with many millions more votes, but to go back to this primary and keep repeating the same mistakes and alienating millions of passionate Democratic voters by calling them sexist, not denying there were sexist or racist, or similar to the alt-right via the extremely smooth-brained political horseshoe theory, is not only counterproductive but also boring at this point. It's tired and dull. This is the most important part about it. What could she have changed? I'm looking back at my old writing, and honestly, there are certain things that I think I am way more cynical on. Who wrote this is pretty good. I did, bro. What the fuck? Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, when asked to sum up her faults and how she would have changed how she campaigned, Hillary drops her ultimate gem. Nothing on the policy front, but definitely would be more open-minded to weird, unforeseeable things like Russia hacking our entire election. An entire book summarized with these words. Her profound inability to admit mistakes in order not to repeat them is ultimately going to let this circus machine that keeps pumping out new and even more viciously racist ass clowns on the Republican side, while Dems keep throwing banal, boring Hail Mary candidates like John Ossoff at walls in red districts with hopes that they stick. The irony is back then, John Ossoff was way more right-wing back then when he was running in, what was it? It was in, I think, was it South Carolina or Georgia before he went to Senate? When he ran as a senator, he literally, was it Georgia 6? Yeah. No, when he ran for Senate, he was like significantly more left-wing in his policy prescriptions. He lost the Georgia representative Senate race and then won a Senate seat. Yeah. Except Ossoff won. No, he didn't, you fucking idiot. He lost back then when I was talking about what he was doing. Shut up. This is in 2016. His campaign in 2016 versus his campaign as in Senate, especially paired up with a much more radical liberal Raphael Warnock, was dramatically different. Okay, calm down. You were literally not alive back then. You were a fetus. Okay, when I wrote this, you were still a baby. This was 25 fucking years ago. So shut your mouth. Maybe you can learn something. Yeah. He got literally destroyed in 2016, eviscerated, ass clapped. Without candidates who clearly support populist economic programs as well as social justice, we will simply remain the anti-Trump party, and we will lose. At a time when one side is trying to maintain the status quo while the others is destroying that status quo with pure racist vengeance, the takeaway from this book is no different. The same glaringly out-of-touch elitist talking points that shifted the responsibility away from a failed campaign to an electorate that did not vote or voted elsewhere. Politicians need to work for our votes and encourage us to campaign on their behalf, lest the nation continue to turn into a larger, demoralized voter base that doesn't believe their vote counts for something. At a time when one's trying to maintain the status quo while the other is destroying that status quo, politicians need to work for our votes and encourage us to campaign on their behalf, lest the nation continue to turn into a larger, demoralized voter base that doesn't believe their vote counts for something. I'm glad Hillary wrote a book and she's rightfully an icon for girls all over the U.S. But if Democrats want to win, we're going to need to latch on to clearly identifiable progressive policies, no matter how economically unfeasible they may seem. Policies that terrify Republicans who want a future where poor people are melted for biomatter. And I don't know if it will happen if we're so busy blaming Russia and Bernie. She going? What the dog doing? Also, remember, I was very clearly aware of my audience when I was writing shit like this, and I knew that this was for a libbed up audience. I used to certainly have on my forward facing side, on my mainstream facing side, I certainly would try to appeal to the sensibilities of liberals who at the time were any kind of criticism against Hillary is akin to sacrilege. How fucking dare you? They had that kind of really aggressive attitude. So I would tailor my messaging around being oh yeah, Hillary's an icon, but also she fucking sucks. Here's why. Which I should have kept doing, to be honest.